market, but we're getting there. We're working on it.
Yeah, we certainly are. You must be doing all right, though. I've noticed that thing on your wrist. What's that?
It's, you know.
Yeah, he's bought an Apple Watch. He sold out, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, he sold out massively.
You don't want to know how much I'm getting for having this on my wrist here.
Yeah. What was it? 2 donations, that was, mate? Wasn't it, something? Those poor kids. When their parents find out, they're going to be so angry, all right? Anyway, we've got a great game coming up for you now. It's going to be Petraeus versus Hart. And this is something that you can talk about at length because Petraeus is your boy, Todd. You're always bigging him up.
Yeah, Petraeus is, a Zerg that's at some point just decided he was going to be, becoming one of the best foreigners in terms of Zergs, and kind of made it up there. Like, I think he's very high up there in terms of like being one of the better Zergs in the foreign scene, but not quite at the very top yet. So will he ever reach that? Definitely going to take some work and some good results, like here at DreamHack. But against somebody like Hart, I'm not sure if I would say he's a favorite. Like, he's really, really good overall. I'm just not sure if he's going to be enough for somebody as big as Hart.
You don't think it's his time yet? Because, Petraeus has been hyped up as one of the new foreigner hopes for a while, and DreamHack is kind of a tournament where people tend to make, well, someone usually makes an unexpected run.
The thing is, with him, he's doing really well on ladder in particular, or even like sometimes in online tournaments, but in the biggest tournaments out there, like DreamHack, like even in WCS, he's really, really struggled to finally qualify for the WCS Premier League. So he seems to choke a little bit here and there at times, and there's not going to be any room for choking here against somebody, again, like Hart, who's, I think, is very good in Terran versus Zerg.
Well, I've been reliably informed that the players are ready to go, and obviously we are battling back from tech difficulties, so I guess we'll be doing post-match analysis primarily. That means we're going to throw straight to the game. It's going to be casted by Nathanius and Todd. Take it away, boys.
That's right. It's time to get into this. Terran versus Zerg. Todd, you told me you were so happy when you found out there weren't any Protoss players because watching them lose just breaks your heart. So you just rather not cast any Protoss players this tournament, right?
They win sometimes, and then I get very happy. But this is a cool match. I mean, Hart is a guy who's been to quite a few tournaments himself. Used to do very, very well in tournaments like MLG.
Yeah.
Had some very deep runs. But now he's here at DreamHack in Europe, where Petraeus has quite a bit more experience with living here and playing here. And it's going to be cool, I think, to see these two face off.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Both these players, of course, spawning in the bottom right position. We'll start the series off on Coda. We have the yellow Zerg representing Team My Insanity. He is Petraeus, the New Zealander who ended up practicing a lot in California and now practices a lot in Switzerland, climbing his way up the ranks, Todd. His opponent in the northwest, the red Terran player representing Axiom Esports. He is Hart.
Petraeus basically plays everywhere except back at home lately. That's how it's been for him.
You know, the Southeast Asia region, all people from New Zealand, Australia, they have a lot of uphill struggles, of course. It's difficult to travel out there. Flying in general in that area is very expensive. And, it's tough for some of these guys to break out. And I know that there's, as you told me, a couple of the Southeast Asia fans, of course, staying up, tuning in, making sure they get a chance to watch their favorite guys play. And Petraeus has pretty much been like one of the biggest success stories. Him and EIZO really have a lot of success. Yeah. And, especially other guys, we used to see compete a lot more. But, like Moonglade's now done a bit more casting. And even Pig, who made it to the top 16 at WCS last season.
How do you like the 11-11 here with the, I guess, the quicker Reaper opener that Hart's going for against the Hatch first of Petraeus on this map?
I personally like the 11 supply barracks, 11 gas openers a lot. Most of the time you ask yourself as a Terran player, like, well, why isn't he walling off his main base, right? He just put the one depot there. He just wants that Reaper to get down that cliff faster. He just wants to get straight to the other side. The thing is, Hart is not someone who probably plays against Petraeus a lot, but Petraeus is someone who really doesn't do a lot of crazy stuff. In a lot of the games that I've seen of him, most of the time when I talk to people, the only thing that they have to say about Petraeus is that he's really good, and that if you play at the highest level of European ladder, half of your games and any given day will be against him because he practices more than pretty much anybody in Europe.
Good points. Hart's on paper, I mean, he's had a lot of deep runs in tournaments, even WCS North America back in the old days. Whereas Petraeus, again, struggled to qualify for WCS. So now, going up against a Hart that's like more experienced in these kind of big tournaments, I remember not too long ago, the Muslim was casting some matches with me and Roddy, and he kept on mentioning to us how some of the European Zergs right now, I think he was mostly talking about Targa and Petraeus, they are doing super well, and they are very, very high up there in terms of being the best players on the European server, or some of the guys that do the best. So we'll see if we see that Petraeus here as the guy that just surprises us and maybe bulldoze through hearts. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, trying to do his best to keep his drones alive. Actually not losing anything, it looks like, to this Reaper yet. And considering, you know, that 11 supply Reaper, he's going up to 3 Reapers in total. Usually you get there fast enough that those Lings and the Queens aren't out yet. And you're able to, you know, ideally get a drone or two. If you're a Terran player, you're super happy if you can get at least 2 drones with a build like this. And, you know, you're of course killing Zerglings potentially, but Petraeus keeping it locked down, running a tight ship so far. Now that the Queens are coming out, he can do a little bit more work against this. Looks like he loses just his first drone there, but all things said and done, nothing too bad. But yeah, Petraeus has just been someone that I've heard so much about, especially, you know, the time that I spent in Europe this year. Pretty much number one as far as games played across anybody.
Yeah. Do you like the 3 Reaper style prior to going into Hellions?
Yeah, the 3 Reaper opening does a couple of things for you. Like, usually players will go for either 1 Reaper into quick reactor, or they'll go 3 Reapers. Like, 2 Reapers have been phased out a lot. Some guys like Bunny will do it, but they'll still get a 3rd Reaper later on. The 3 Reapers just give you so many hit points to tank when you get your Hellions out in the follow-up stage. It's all about building some momentum. You know, you deal some damage to the Queen now, then you get the Hellions out, and it's easier to finish it off and run in and do a lot of damage. But it also keeps you safe against anything like a fast pool, where someone might try to run Lings around and get inside your base. As we see a pretty awkward switch to that reactor coming in from Hart now, as he will begin his Hellion production.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the map and like how TvZ just usually goes on this map? I was talking, you know, with quite a few people about the matchup recently, and for example, Roddy was telling me that he thinks that the key point in the matchup is how well the Zerg player is able to set up a 4th base. Does that particularly apply to this map as well, or are the drops going to be important?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Like, as a Zerg player, that center base that's right outside your natural, like, this base is super attractive, right? It's super close, but it's also towards the Terran player. And for the Terran player, that center base looks even better, because if the Zerg takes that base and the Terran gets the center, you have a very short push distance to the other side. The corner base 4th for the Zerg is okay if you're able to keep the game slow, but you always have to worry about that. I actually had a chance to talk to Petraeus about this possible matchup in his group, and also this map. He said he likes it for TvZ, thinks it's one of the more balanced ones. This drone getting shut down is definitely going to hurt, though.
Nathanias, 1-1 with missile upgrades and roaches being made right now. Is he going to play a Roach Hydra style?
You know, when I said I was talking to Petraeus, he mentioned this being something that Hart does a lot, is going for mech. And from the way that he set himself up, it seems that Petraeus has caught a beat on this. He's recognized from the way that he's opened and from what he's seen so far that could be the case. And this makes the 1-1 opening really smart. In Korea, the best way so far that we've seen Zerg players dealing with mech is the old Wings of Liberty stuff. You go with the 1-2 punch of Roach into Muta.
Do you
really try to keep the Terran off guard.
Yeah.
And going for the Roach upgrades will set himself up for later use, of course, of potentially Hydralisks if he goes for Hive Tech. Or
so you lean towards more passive play, where like you're going to mix in a lot of different units, not a timing? Sometimes I guess you can do a timing.
I think usually Terran players are worried about Mutalisk timings in this matchup, but actually these Hellions and Reapers are doing a pretty good job. Getting those 2 Queens substantially slows down how many active tumors can be put on the map, but what Petraeus should be looking to do is make a big Roach push with this 1-1, with this speed, not to try to end the game, not to kill him, but to deny a 3rd base as much as possible. And based on the way that Hart's set up with his tech, his infrastructure, he doesn't have a lot of it. He's just now starting his 2nd and 3rd factories. And what this basically means is he does not have anywhere near the amount of space control that he needs to hold a 3rd base. Petraeus doesn't need to kill Hart right now. He just needs to slow the 3rd down enough that he gets his own 3rd saturated, and by the time he has enough tanks to defend the 3rd, then he makes a switch into, say, Mutalisks, where Hart may not have had, you know, a good number of Thors or missile turrets to protect all of his bases.
It's interesting to see that if Petraeus had been on Zergling Baneling style, he would have taken so much more damage, I think, from the first push here that moved out from Hart, where there was quite a few Hellions and a few Reapers here as well. Can this do any damage with the tank up there?
He can try to force his way, but with SCVs being pulled to repair, like he is not going to get much done. He just wants to make sure that that defense is there. At this point, you can bleed out a few Roaches, since you know you're basically forcing the Terran into building Banshees
+1 melee
and tanks anyway.
What do you think about this?
That and the Zergling speed, I think he's probably a bit perplexed by the amount of Marines that he made out of that reactored barracks. So I'm thinking that he's getting the impression that his possibly going to be bio.
Yeah.
He'll probably be looking for a follow-up confirmation. Like this Overlord sees the reactor barracks, and this actually should really mess with Petraeus' head because he might even start up a Baneling nest. Like the Spire, I think, still really good that he gets this, but he needs to move that Overseer in and just double check, make sure that he's actually playing versus bio or mech.
Yeah. If he knew that it's mech here, surely he would be going, for Hydralis Den, maybe Infestation Pits, to maybe get either a few Swarmos or go for Hive usually so that you can add those Vipers, which can be great against mech play. We've seen that in recent TvZ games. Viper play really being very, very strong. And now he's finally going to confirm, but is it too late? +1 melee, he's halfway through done. And 14 Zerglings on production.
It's not the end of the world. Like, the Zerglings shouldn't be useful in any way, shape, or form. Like, getting run-bys in against a mech player, someone like Hart, he's not going to make himself vulnerable in that particular way. We immediately see the Infestation Pit start up. And for Petraeus, most mech builds are centered around +2 timings or 160 supply. Because he was able to delay this start at least until he's just now planning it, I think this command center, the creep should just about be gone from to plan it down at the 3rd base. Yeah, it's not even planted yet. So this slows down the timing enough that Petraeus has a lot of options on the table. And we can see with the amount of gas he's banked up, close to 900, going for the mutas, that 1-2 setup, he'll be able to do that. There's 2 Thors coming out. He's even already moving into Widow Mines because Hart recognizes that that's a big threat.
Shouldn't Petraeus be at a place in terms of workers where he's at many, many more than the Terran player? Like, Hart is even ahead in supply right now. This is getting really scary. 70 army supply to 50. Like, surely, if he does the timing soon, it's going to be a super scary one. He has also, he has a very nice balance of tanks to Hellbats with some Banshees in there.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And 2 Thors.
It's pretty interesting because I'm thinking that it comes a little bit back towards when we were seeing that almost fake out earlier, where he just threw up. He invested resources into Zergling speed, which won't be useful versus mech. He won't be able to make any investments into the investment into just those Zerglings that he built. Maybe those could have been drones that would have put him in a slightly more comfortable position.
84 army supply to 69.
Yeah, 160. This is a pretty common supply to push out as Terran. Now with mech, it's still very risky because if you get caught out, if Petraeus has enough units to take this out, there's very little that you can do as the Terran player. You make this push because you're ready to overwhelm him at a specific point, but he only has +1 attack. Petraeus' mismanagement or misallocation of resources because he wasn't sure if it was bio still make it weird. I do like that he's going to do something with these Zerglings, but actually stopping this attack is a whole other ballgame.
He's going to take a lot of Roaches, and right now he's even only on 1-1 on upgrades, which are, I think, the same for the Terran player. The engagement finally begins.
Yeah, he's got the Banshees coming in as well, and the Vikings doing a really good job on that Overseer. He's just going to pull out of the space. He knows he can't defend it. These Zerglings actually got him a little bit more than he was probably bargaining for, which is quite nice, clearing out some of the SCVs.
But losing his 4th here is
that's
very bad.
That's going to hurt. He starts a base in the bottom left. His Vipers are halfway done. 3 Vipers on the way. Ooh. This is so important. He never made any use of that Spire either. He realized he's I need units right now.
I think Hart doesn't even expect Vipers here to come out very soon. So if he has all his tanks clumped up, which right now actually is not the case, he spread them out very, very well. But a few very good blinding clouds. Actually, he saw the Hive, so I guess that's why he's setting up so nicely, and he's still taking his time.
Seeing the Hive, when the Banshee went in to harass, might have told him he's making a big investment into tech that he doesn't have yet. So this is probably why Hart decided to push out at this moment without the +2, even without his blue flame.
Not going to do anything here. They're going to get killed. And Hart, the leapfrog in here, is actually going to speed it up here a little bit.
Well, he's clumping himself up a little bit more. He still needs to be careful. Those Banshees are still a massive issue. The Banshees are still a huge issue, though, because all he has as anti-air are the Queens.
Check out the production tab. There's just so many things that are being made right now that's Hart is not giving time to Petraeus to complete those upgrades, to complete those ultras. He's going for a timing before. He's going to force an engagement out of Petraeus.
And these tanks are spread out so well. It's very difficult for Petraeus to actually get on top of all of it. The first 2 tanks, okay, they get swallowed up. The Thors and the Hellbats are dealing with the Roaches at the natural, so there's no tank support for those guys. But the Banshees are still here, and they're just absolutely wreaking havoc on everything.
6 ultras in production are going to try to come out and change how this fight has gone, but Petraeus his supply is plummeting. The ultras are just coming in one by one and dying very quickly. The Banshees were completely uncontested during the entire fight.
Yeah, the Ultralists don't have upgrades. There's nothing to deal with the Banshees, and none of the supporting units are left for these Ultras to get on top of them. GG. Hart takes game number 1.
Very, very nice play out of Hart. Very nice timing. He realized exactly when all of those upgrades and extra units from the Hive Tech were going to kick in. He hit just right before, forced an engagement out of Petraeus because Petraeus didn't want to let him, set up down that ramp with a big siege position. Yeah. And in the end, it was enough. Just pure Roaches like this. doesn't do very well against that many tanks, Thors, and Hellbats, and especially those Banshees. They were like the best game of their life.
Yeah,
literally nothing attacked them.
I mentioned this already a few times, but just to kind of go through like why the investment into things like the Zergling speed and getting that the Overlord speed that early on, why it's an issue. Like his Infestation Pit, if he spends that 100 gas, you know, the 60 seconds earlier or whatever that he would have taken to mine it to actually get the Zergling speed, he gets the Infestation Pit a bit earlier. If he can get his Hive a little bit earlier, and then subsequently his Vipers, if not making that investment into the melee upgrades and the Zergling speed and the Overlord speed, which I don't think is really that necessary unless you're playing versus potential bio play, that's a really big deal. I think this is a scenario where Petraeus slowed himself down by the misdirection of just that reactored barracks, which was, to me, Heart's way of saying, well, I don't want like a couple mutas to kill me, but I don't need stimmed Marines to defend, you know, like 6 or 7.
That was a pretty cool play here. Just, I guess, Petraeus assuming a little bit too much rather than scouting and confirming what he was up against.
The initial read,
the game.
The initial read wasn't bad. Like getting himself set up with the 1/1 Roach was what he needed, but you know, not being able to move into something like 2/2 definitely hurts against a player that, you know, can play mech. And here we are loaded into game number 2. We're on Expedition Lost. In the top right position, we have the yellow Zerg player, currently down 0-1 in this best of 3. Representing Team Mind Sanity, he is Petraeus. Needs to win the next 2 maps to topple this guy in his group. Representing Team Axiom Esports, the Red Terran, he is Heart.
Yeah, this is actually the deciding match, so very important. Only one of these guys will advance. Can you believe that Verdi toppled this group? He took first in this group.
That's actually really crazy.
After, as Wax said, he came out of retirement for the 8th time. Qualified for the next round very impressively. Actually beating Hearts.
That's like a name that you hear around, but there's usually not a whole lot of results to put on it, but topping this group, I think, is seriously impressive.
He's had a few good runs at DreamHack. Like you can really tell, like it's like the one important tournament to him. Like he always tries to attend. He's attended many of those, and yeah, it's good to see at least you know, a few upsets here and there, I guess. And now one of these guys here has to go home. So far, it looks like Heart might be the one advancing on to the next round, and this time it's going to open with the gas, I think it was 13.
Yeah, nothing seriously crazy here. This is a map that is generally unfavorable for any type of Reaper play. There's really nowhere to get a Reaper in. Like you can't jump in from any cliff into the natural. There's such a small space to go into the main that you can't, like if you manage to get your Reaper in there, it's never getting out. Like there's not a whole lot to do there. So I think this makes a lot of sense. He's probably, just the way that he's set up, it looks a little old school, to be honest. Like he could just go 2 Marines into a factory and just go for crazy fast Hellions, which based on a lot of the builds that some Zerg players do on this map, aggressively speaking, is not bad, you know, just kick it old school. But I guess he's just going to go for a slightly later Reaper.
I feel like we're seeing less and less 2-Raxes, by the way, in TvZ. What's happened with that? Has it like been figured out for the most part, or do Zergs not have been that greedy anymore?
I really don't know. For the most part, it just comes down to like whether the Terran wants to try.
Yeah.
Like Heart.
Did you notice?
Heart to me.
That we see a lot less 2-Rax these days, or?
I haven't seen as many games with 2-Rax, but I mean I've still seen like the proxy Raxes themselves aren't that crazy. Like I think I saw Maru today already, like proxy Rax. You know, but he's like the kind of guy.
I was talking about usual Terrans, not like
the usual suspects. I think Heart's a 2-Raxer. He's not afraid to do it. I think I actually saw him or someone do it recently, but it's a bit of a flip-floppy thing because, you know, Petraeus is the kind of guy that when you play so much on ladder, you play against the Terrans, like especially in Europe, like Muslim enough that you get pretty good against 2-Raxes, you know. Like that I'm pretty sure he's like, yeah, I played like 100 games this week. It's like, yes, well, it's easy to do that when 70 of the games are over within 8 minutes, you know.
Shots fired, Nate.
Win or lose, man. At least it's over fast, right, Todd?
That's a Protoss like Moto or something, not Terran usually.
Yeah. Well, for some Terrans, it's a creed. But Heart is even with the 1 Reaper on this map, I guess he just wants to have it defensively. Like Petraeus did squeeze out some early lings.
Yeah, he made 6.
Yeah, it's still like technically. Well, actually, we don't want to take too much damage on that Reaper. His ideal goal should have been to like try to get to that natural, even if he doesn't kill the Reaper, but buy time for those lings to get him. But because the Reaper was at home, he can't cancel the natural, so he doesn't get anything for it. But a really quick speed from Petraeus will give him super fast map control.
Yeah, and Heart is going to need to be careful for that when it kicks in, because there is a few links out. He could take some damage. We'll see if Petraeus wants to decide to, you know, try for that. So far, he's only droning up for now. He knows he's safe.
It's really risky for Hart, actually, to move out like this because he doesn't know anything about what Petraeus is doing other than that he opened with some fast links. He doesn't know that Speed's about to finish up.
Do you think Petraeus is going to
right
get links? 2 overlords are in production. He starts a few additional drones. Let's see when those injections here kick in.
And he's back on gas, too.
Yeah.
Like this could be a really fast Mutalisk build. It's still an option for him to go crazy fast Spire.
No all-in, like on regular hatchery.
I think he would have
like
needed. He would have needed to start his tech like maybe like 5.5 minutes, like 6-minute lair. This is, you know, it's not only, you know, in like a roundabout way, it's really greedy and aggressive at the same time because the whole idea of this push is that you're going to get insanely fast Mutalisks. Like that's what this build is.
He cancelled on the third base the extractor. We'll see. He's not allowed to start.
Okay, he wanted to start the third hatchery. Like if you can get it up, like you know, Hellions and Reapers aren't going to have a pretty tough time actually killing a hatchery. So. You would just buy him time to get the queens out. But this is all about the fast Mutalisks. And I think against 3 command centers with a barracks opening, like if he was going Hellion Banshee, I really like the build for Petraeus.
Yeah.
But Hart has picked a very solid way to open up. Like if he especially goes for his 2nd and 3rd barracks before his engineering bays, Mutalisks really shouldn't be too much of a threat.
He started an additional overlord very late here. It's going to be a bit of a supply block for quite some time for Petraeus here at a very important stage in the game when you need to be making drones.
And his overlord that he sacked to scout got getting killed, actually put him in a bit of a tough spot.
Is he really happy about being able to scout that it's bio so early in the game?
I think all it tells him is that, well, I mean, since it's not mech, like mech is really, really rough on this map because you have to deal with those rocks, and usually you open up with a ton of Hellions, and like actually killing the rocks in time to get a 3rd base if a Zerg puts any pressure, it's kind of weird. It's really uncomfortable, and you're super stretched out. So bio on this map in general, I'd say, is favorable. But knowing that it's bio this early on just kind of tells him, it's like, okay, well, at least I know what upgrades I need to get. At least I know I can get the Baneling Nest early on, or at least I know I need the Baneling Nest early on, just in case some sort of Hellbat push comes in as like a supplement to this. But everything that Hart's doing is like super cookie-cutty standard, right? The double upgrades, his stim.
Ooh, I think Petraeus is going to try for his Zergling run by, possibly natural. At the same time, he's getting quite a few more to defend, was he to be attacked by those Hellions.
Sometimes Terrans will try to take that 3rd base at this point once the Hellions are on the map and they think they have map control. But yeah, this is really nice. The more you delay that base, those 3rd bases, man, big deals.
I think he's going to get 7 Mutas pretty much as the Spire ends to get that started, force some turrets out of Hart, and at the same time start saturating his 3rd base. How do you feel like, how good of a position is Hart so far in this game in terms of, you know, having his production going, his upgrades and stuff?
I mean, everything's okay, but Hart has to like choose now, because he could try to just focus on just grinding out units, but he's going to start the missile turrets, and you do need a few against stuff like this, and every missile turret he builds delays, you know, basically 1 round of Marines from a barracks, because it's the same resource cost.
The Hellions you keep alive no matter what, like the timing at which he could have sent Hellions in to try and kill some drones has passed, right?
Usually, if this catches you off guard, or if you're going mech, you just throw the Hellions away to try to keep the Mutalisks at home, because you do need the Mutalisks. There's no Banelings on the map right now, and obviously no Roaches since he's playing the straight-up Ling Baneling Mutalisk style. The Evolution Chambers come a bit late, which is the biggest worry for Petraeus, so he really wants to get something done with this.
Petraeus is focusing a lot on the creep spread, by the way. I saw like 6 creep tumors on the production tab here a second ago.
This gets risky. The Marines do have stim. There are medevacs out now, and with the placement of the missile turrets, he's pretty comfortably situated, as the DIDS finally send some Marines over to kill that Overlord at the 3rd base. And this is not going to end up being a later 3rd, really, than the last one. I think he should still be able to land it around 12 minutes, maybe depending on where the creep dissipates from first.
Oh, even before.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
So not too different. The Marines are out of position, though, so we can come give this command center some love.
Hart is going for an attack. He sees that the Mutas are out of position. I think he kind of guesses that there's maybe not going to be enough Banelings just yet.
Baneling speed isn't done just yet. It's getting close. Like this is a scenario.
Even
where
the Baneling counts. Like I don't think it's high.
He's got 7 on the map, 7 more on the way. If he has Baneling speed, then it becomes like kind of doable. This 3rd command center is taking an egregious amount of damage, as he can start to pick SCVs off with this, and the Hellbat push too. Like Petraeus needs this. If he holds this, I think with the amount of damage he's doing back home, this could still be a really good place.
The army supply 81 to 40. There is a dismount massive chunk of Marines and quite a few Marauders and Hellbats tanking at the front. The connections are going to have to be massive here for Petraeus. He's finally going for it. He's super blocked.
He's going to try to hit this from two sides, but the Hellbats actually all wrap themselves around the Banelings, and he's splitting his Marines very, very well. Kills all of the Banelings, and Petraeus just saying, yeah, okay, I'm just going to kill you with basically my stim timing and getting combat shields. Hart gets the 2-0. Petraeus with the fast Mutalisk opener. In general, Todd, it's just fast mutas don't really work against 3 command center bio openings that well. Very strong against most mech builds, and perhaps that's what Petraeus was expecting, since this is a map that's generally seen as tricky for Terrans. But Hart choosing, yeah, I can just kill him with the bio timing. He got a really good number of Marines. He wasn't too greedy with the way that he set himself up on his 2 bases.
Man, did Hart deliver this series. Those Korean Terrans, they're taking on some of the biggest names in the foreign scene and doing pretty well for themselves so far. This was a very well-conducted series, and I'm very proud of Hart here for how good he did. Like, I'm not particularly surprised, just
but his TvZ
he made it look super easy.
Yeah, his TvZ has drastically improved over the course of the last year. Like, Roddy and I basically, all we had was praise for him in playing in WCS last year, and Terran versus Zerg especially. Yeah. It's probably one of his better matches.
The thing is, Petraeus is really no easy opponent, yet Hart made it look completely easy this series.
Yeah, and as an elimination match, it's rough. We're back with you guys. What's up?
Oh, what's up, man? Quick game.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was. It was a bit of a massacre. We were hoping we'd have a little bit longer. Me and Wax were about to get the beers out, but I guess no time for that, but curse you hard. But yeah, very convincing. I thought we'd pay a little bit of lip service to Petraeus there, because obviously you hyped him up again.
Like, are you surprised that the matches weren't really competitive at all, if you think about it?
Yeah, Hart really delivered, and maybe Petraeus didn't play at his best level. Like, the first game, he misread what was happening at some point, and didn't scout enough. The second game, I thought he was going to be happy with the scout, but just, I don't know how to hit his timing that Petraeus didn't really anticipate. He had Bailing speed way too late, and just died. It was a little bit weird to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think it was then? Was it just that Hart played this sort of perfect game that he couldn't deal with, or was this Petraeus getting deer in the headlights?
Yeah, I think Hart is just like very, very solid, and he can play the mind games very well here and there. And now at a time where Petraeus thought that Hart probably would want to play very defensive against the Mutas, stay at home defense. Yeah. Hart was like, you're going to go for my third with your Mutas, they're going to be out of position, I'm just going to attack you at a time you're not going to have enough Banelings. And his split actually at the end was like, it was insane.
It's very risky to do what Hart did. Majority of games, when the Zerg player is pushing your third base as with Mutalisks, when you're trying to plan it down, that's supposed to tell the Terran player, who's usually moving out with about half as many bioforces, like Hart's macro is just really good, but that usually tells the Terrans, like, come home, defend your third base, because the game's going to go long. And Hart's like, no, I actually think I could probably just kill you right now because you've spent so much gas on Mutalisks. And that's precisely what happened. I imagine that Petraeus was just like, come home, defend, your command center's on fire, and Hart's like, no, I'm coming to kill you.
So the Terrans are doing pretty good. What's happening?
I mean, I don't know if that's a particularly fair question to be asking at this point.
This may be a little bit early in the tournament.
A little bit early in the tournament.
We've actually had a €20 donation from one of your fans in the venue. And what they wanted, yeah, here we go. I'll just slide that across to them. What they actually wanted you to do was they want you to throw over to Smix for the interview. She's with the winner. Go on, do it.
All right. Well, we do have the winner's interview now with Smix up in the player area. Let's hear what Hart has to say.
Thank you very much, Nathanius. Congratulations, Hart, on making it to the round of 32. Though maybe not in the way that people expected. Honestly, people expected you to be the favorite of the group, but you actually lost to Verdi. Did that throw you off at all?
상대방의 스타일 하나도 몰라가지고 마지막 판에 불의의 일격을 맞고 졌는데 뭐 조가 쉬워서 충분히 올라갈 수 있을 거라 생각했습니다.
So he says, I didn't know Verdi's style at all, and so that's why I think in the final set against him, I lost. But looking at the group, I thought the rest of the players were very easy, so I wasn't worried. I knew I would be able to advance. Now, moving onward, the round of 32 format is different this time at this DreamHack from every other DreamHack. Instead of being group stage, it'll actually be a single elimination bracket. What do you think of this change?
저번 드림핵 포맷보다 이게 훨씬 더 좋은 것 같고요. 풀플레이 한 번도 안 해도 되고 바로바로 떨어져서 이게 더 마음에 드는 것 같아요.
Says, I actually prefer this style very much. I like the fact that it'll move on quickly, you know, just match after match after match, just moving onward. So I actually prefer the style a lot. And last but not least, Hart, we saw you in Europe as recently as last week at Gfinity. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as you would have liked. I feel like because of that, your desire to do well at this tournament must be even higher.
지금 뭐 토스전에 약간 문제가 있는 것 같은데 어쩔 수 없고 이번 드림핵에서 더 못 보여준 거를 많이 보여주고 싶고요. 마지막으로 한마디 하자면 For MMA, cheer up.
So that last bit, I'm sure you guys understood as MMA is unfortunately out. But prior to that, he stated, right now I feel like I'm really struggling in my TVP. And that being a problem aside, I really want to do well. So make sure to cheer for me, guys. And I'll see you guys soon. And thank you very much, Hart. Guys, we're going to go to a short commercial break. But when we come back, it'll be our first match of the round of 32. It'll be Mana versus Firecake. Stay tuned.